Hey guys, today we are thrilled to have Havish Garimella, Senior Data Scientist at Apple based in Cupertino, California, join us on the Data Insights podcast. Havish has an impressive career trajectory, having previously worked as a Senior Data Scientist at Visa and an Analytics Lead at Kohl's Department Stores. With experience spanning retail, finance, and tech, Havish has a unique perspective on leveraging data to drive value across diverse industries. Havish, welcome to the podcast.
Hey Arya, how are you doing? Thank you. Thanks for the intro. And I think you got it right. Driving insights across different departments of retail, finance, and helping the business is actually what I do.
Awesome, awesome. Great to have you, Havish. So, Havish, can you walk us through your journey from Kohl's to Visa and now to Apple? How did your roles and responsibilities evolve across these industries?
So to start off with, we both went to masters together at UT Dallas, and I think one of the turning points during my masters was I got an internship to work at a company called ROI Checker, which is a startup where I worked as a marketing data scientist intern there, where I actually got to a hands-on understand customer segmentations and customer behaviors when they shop around. So that one thing led to the other, and that led to my full-time job at Kohl's. And Kohl's is a great company to start off with because uh, it's in Midwest. The people are very nice. They're helping you to learn there more, and also I worked in a very business focused role at Kohl's, and especially in customer marketing, and it's more about B2C marketing that I gained my experience there. And one, as I mentioned, one thing led to the other. After working at 1.5 year at Kohl's for 1.5 year, I got an opportunity to work at Visa, where it was B2B. I think that's one of the connections we both have. We both have worked for a payment network company, and you're currently working for a payment network company, and I worked for one. So where we used to, within Visa, I worked as a Visa. It, I think the role is more of a consulting data scientist there, where I used to work for different Visa clients. They call it VCA, Visa Consulting Analytics, where, as you mentioned, actually got to work with different industries there, like retail, airlines, casinos, banking, and all different kinds of industries. And what we essentially did was we helped them launch their credit card programs and also benchmark their existing credit cards with everything else that's out there. And I think you definitely know this on it's high on privacy also, like when you're dealing with this transactional levels data. So the best learning I had there was, while keeping privacy in mind, dealing with big data like all the US transactions, those are on Visa network basically, and helping our clients. That was the challenge, and those were great learnings from Visa. And all this consulting kind of data science experience I had from Visa was very very helpful for me to get my role at Apple. And within Apple, I would say it's more of a business development strategy kind of data scientist. On a daily basis, I'm a business problem solver, I'd say.
Hmm.
Like one day I'm a data scientist, one day I'm a data engineer, and one day I'm a program or project product manager.
Hmm.
One day juggling around with new AI technologies that those are coming up and trying to learn them. So yeah, that's been my career so far.
Awesome, awesome. Sounds amazing, and thanks for sharing those insights. So, like working in retail, finance, and tech, like gives you like a rare vantage point. How do the challenges in data science differ across these industries, and what skills are universally applicable?
So I'll start with answering the first part on what is different between each of these industries. I think the sensitivities at each of these businesses operate is very different. To come off with, when we're talking about retail and you're talking about data science in marketing at retail, your false positive rate for a particular model you built for a retail industry can be higher. Maybe you'd be sending like five more emails to your customers and they don't respond to your email, or they don't buy the stuff. So the cost of mistake in a retail data science could be lesser depending on the situation again, but it can highly vary when you're working in finance. Let's say you're forecasting your business for the next 1 year, and you forecasted like 2% over sales or 3% over sales. And let's say your business has a manufacturing unit now, and they plan their supply, they plan their vendors, and they plan their negotiations based on your forecast. That could be a costly mistake for your company. So So the error rates are going to be different. So or any false positive rates in that case can be very, very different in the finance company. So I think it's very important to understand the intricacies in it. And I think maybe take a step back. The very basic question you would ask is like, what is the problem you're trying to solve, and which departments are using this data that you're giving to them, and how are they using it, and who are they contacting. Again, like, go levels down and see how are you exactly solving the problem. That gives you an idea of your what level of effort that needs to be done to get that work. And so that's the first one.
Mhm.
And what is the second question again? I just got lost.
Yeah, sure. So, as what skills are kind of universally applicable across these all three industries that you have worked with?
That's a great question. I think the universally applicable skills are business problem solving. I think one of the biggest advice I got earlier in my career is ask so many questions. Doesn't matter who is sitting on the opposite side of your table. Ask so many questions like, why do you need this? Who is going to use this? And what are they going to use it for? And why in this particular situation? Something like bombard them with so many questions so you get more context on it. And I'd say that this asking so many questions and getting more context on it is like 30% of the work. So when you get a clarity on where it's going, you can do it very well.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for again for that insights. So, what has been one of the most impactful projects you have worked on at Apple? Like, could you share some key challenges you faced and how you overcame those, challenges?
Sure, yeah. So I used to work in finance team at Apple before. Now I've changed to Apple Care now. And I can talk about, I mean, not of course not revealing too many details, but I can talk about what goes on through in a finance data science teams. Basically, I was actually working on a forecast for one of the Apple products releases, hardware products, and we essentially do it like 8 months before or 1 year before the releases, basically, to plan for everything. So, and how Apple as a company operates is they do get these forecast signals from different departments within Apple. Like sales teams will have a forecast, and mine is a customer analytics team, and we do a finance customer analytics team kind of forecast. And they take all the signals together and match them and see like if they are making sense, and then they proceed with their decision making. That's how you do it. So part of this process, I leave aside I mean, data wise, Apple is rich. We do have all the capabilities and all the tools to perform any kind of forecasting. Like it can be a scale XGBoost model over like billions of rows, or it can be a time series model that you basically you have all the equipment to do these things. So that is definitely there. But the major challenge I had while working on this project is like the different kind of stakeholders you hit during this process. Like sales team understand the things differently, the finance team understands the things differently, and we do have to work with the product team and the business team as well. They work differently, and ours is a data science team that we work differently. Everyone has different sensitivities to understand different kinds of data. Let's say a simple example can be, I under predicted like 1 million product sales like in the next come year, and sales team has a 1 million up. So the question would be like, why did you under predict, or why did they over predict? It's not about like what are the drivers behind it. Like, why do you think that's happening? And the challenge here would be like, customers, you have their history of data, like how many Apple products they've bought, or how big of an Apple, basically their engagement levels with Apple.
Hmm.
But there are always dots between these data points you collect from these customers also. Like huge economics concerns out there, or like inflation rates going on in the whole world, and Apple being the product placing of Apple is such that like it's a non-discretionary spend that a customer can be like they need not buy an iPad. Not
Hmm.
everybody needs an iPad, right? So answering all these kind of questions while predicting your forecast was the challenging part for me. Like, what are the key drivers that driving? So I think it boils down to whatever technique you've chosen, it has to be explainable to someone within like 2-3 minutes. It's like a pitch, basically. That part used to be the most challenging part for me.
Okay. Okay. That's great, and thanks for sharing that. So, like at organizations like Apple and Visa, like how do teams effectively scale their data science capabilities while also maintaining high standards for data quality and governance?
So that's a very good question. We used to have this is a big time thing at Visa when I was working at Visa, because that being a transactional data set and that being very huge and messy as well. Like it's a pretty messy data set too. And we do have data governance and engineering teams working full time on tailoring those data sets for data science teams who can who basically these are the foundation teams, right? And the data science team used to sit on top of it, and we used to serve our clients based on the data sets they have built. And that used to take a lot of man force and a lot of guidelines, working with your clients, working with different industries for the data governance. Like we used to work with banking have a different level of data governance and different levels of data sharing kind of things. So and it is also like we used to mask the data as well, like masking the credit card details and all those kind of things. Like that's one example of data governance that used to exist there. The point I was trying to get to is it used to take a lot of man force, a lot of hours, a lot of team management, and all this kind of stuff to get it right, or it's still always continuously evolving though.
Okay. So, continuing on that. So, like, in your opinion, how has that increased, the emphasis on data governance and compliance? And how has that kind of reshaped the role of a data scientist?
Uh, yeah, it gets a little tricky because these kind of things can trickle down a lot on data scientists and analysts and make their job like let's say there are 100 hours I was spending on some work, but dealing with this data governance or privacy related stuff and all this stuff can take like 50% of my time at work, where where you could be using this time to do better things as part of your responsibilities, as part of an actual data scientist's responsibilities, right? So that's a different thing. That's exactly what happens when you don't have a planned data governance or like anything. Like that's where I also like Datawise as well, because it takes off that time from that burden from data scientists and help them focus on the important parts that they can do well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for that shout out as well. So, and those insights. So, like I know you said you are kind of wearing so many hats at Apple, and how that's a great learning opportunity. And you also talked about AI. So, with the growing adoption of AI powered tools, especially in the data space, what do you think are the transformative use cases that teams should kind of prioritize in the coming years?
Transformative use cases, definitely I think there's going to be an abundance of information, that data streaming basically, like from everybody using AI out there. And so there's, I'd say, like let's say companies like us, like Apple or American Express or Visa, they recently got started adapting to these new AI things, like using chat GPT at work or this kind of stuff recently. So which is good in a way. It takes off like 30 or 40% of workload and help them do more work. And the transforming landscape I could see is uh, like a data scientist being able to achieve what used to take like a month, now maybe in 10-15 days. That's something I could see that happens more and more often.
Awesome, awesome. And then continuing on that, so what are the key barriers to adopting AI-driven solutions in enterprises, and how do companies overcome them?
uh, I think privacy is a big thing.
Hmm.
Like your company wants to put data out there or not, and what is the other company going to do with that, do with all the data? At least Apple is super big on it. Like that's exactly why you have a locally run LLMs on your devices in the iPhones now. Local cloud for your iPhone itself. It's big on privacy, right? So I feel like that's a huge concern, and I think costs are also huge concern. The amount of servers or to do it real time, like what the expense at what it comes, is it actually worth it? Or are you getting an ROI for it?
Okay.
Like let's say I know privacy is a big one, and the second one, this one, we've used some crazy cutting edge Gen AI, ChatGPT, or all kinds of tools to tailor your email messages or some kind of touch points to your customers. And at the end of the day, they need to come back and buy your product. That's when the revenue realization happens. So I think although you advanced your methods to reach out to your customers so well, there's
Hmm.
only a certain there's some the diminishing realization of money from the customers as well, right? After a point you don't get an ROI out of it. So it's really important to understand what are the streams within the company you want to invest in. Like, let's say a simple use case can be within Apple Care. Let's say you bought an iPhone and you have a customer has multiple touch points with Apple Care, like once a device has a repair or something. Now there is a scope of using LLMs there to condense all that information, and once a support agent is helping your customer, just give them their case details at once so they can help them better, and the customer experience there is better. So probably there's a use case there. So
Hmm.
picking and choosing where you have a better ROI is a thing too.
Awesome. Awesome. So basically, like prioritizing what works for the business, and of course, like in terms of the return on investment of that particular use case, right? Awesome. Great. So, one persistent challenge many organizations face is breaking down data silos to kind of enable the collaboration across teams. How has Apple addressed this issue of data silo, and what best practices would you recommend for small organizations?
I think within Apple we do have data dictionary kind of pages where you can go within. It's like Wikipedia within Apple, where you
Hmm.
can go and search. But that's been developed by engineers from Apple. It's within Apple, which requires again enormous amounts of time and actual manual work. You're sitting with different kinds of teams and tailoring all their information, putting it one place. Some teams do it on their own, like they come up with their own thing and they share it across other departments at Apple. That's how Apple has dealt with it, and we are. I think within Apple, we are also developing tools to make it easier for the upper management to access all this kind of information as well. Like, let's say, what is the top country in sales out there? So it's a Tableau dashboard in a query, basically, in a
Okay.
sentence. Trying to develop a tool like that within Apple as well. Yeah. So that's how Apple deals with it.
Okay, okay. Thanks for that insight. So one of the pain points we are addressing at Datawise is the fragmentation of data tools for cataloging, discovery, governance, and quality management. Do you think a unified platform for data teams powered by AI can kind of significantly improve operational efficiency? And how do you see such tools being adopted in larger organizations like Apple?
I'd say it'd be amazing to have those kind of tools onboarded into big companies because, again, as I mentioned, there's so many teams working probably towards a single goal,
Hmm.
and also they create too much information. With each of these teams create too much information, and it's going to be an information dump on on like new joinees into the team. And again people who are trying to make sense out of these teams also. Like, for example, some of my VPs will come and, what is this particular team doing out there? Like, what have they worked in 1 year in the past, or what are the results they brought into this company and all. So for these kind of questions, like, there has to be a place where they can find all the things they worked on. Like, let's say my team has like 5 different data warehouses and 1,000 different tables out there, and all tables could be going into like 30 or 40 dashboards out there.
Hmm.
So to who sits at the top and and understand like which is what and where is going what. So,
Hmm.
and for a team to develop that kind of tool, again, it's again one more engineer probably spending hours and hours of time to develop that kind of tools within, right? So if there's a possibility that we can onboard an external tool and get into this kind of spaces, just a plugin,
Hmm.
and suddenly it kind of makes sense on what where is what going, and we can realize the results also quickly there.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks. And that's actually a huge validation for us for what we're trying to build here at Datawise. So thanks so much for that insight. So one more question, follow-up question on that. Like when introducing new tools like Datawise, integration, with integrating with existing data stacks can be a challenge. What strategies would you recommend to ensure seamless adoption and maximum ROI?
Seamless adoption and maximum ROI. Seamless adoption would be to talk all. I think it's to talk about all the intricate details on how the companies use these kind of tools for, like what they use it for, who are they trying to serve, is it for training purposes, or is it for upper management to gather, to get the information quickly out of these tools, or what is their particular use case within the company as well. I think every team will have a different one there. So that would be one thing that help. I think one solution for a big company wouldn't help. Like you need to have different solutions for different teams within the company. That's when you can get it right, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks for that. And so DataWise also features an AI co-pilot that helps, teams discover, manage, and govern the data assets. From your experience, how valuable do you think such AI-driven assistants are in empowering business and technical users?
I think they're very empowering, especially in these times, because again, there's a lot of information dump out there. And if you can spend 80% of your time solving complicated problems and strike off all these trivial tasks that you have using these kind of co-pilots could make you more efficient. Like for example, a very basic question like top sales country for Apple. It shouldn't take you 10-15 minutes also to solve this. There should be a click and you should get that information, right? So knocking off all these kind of, I know I like grossly oversimplified it, but but those kind of use cases, if they are knocked off very quickly, then a data scientist and the company, they'll have an
Mhm,
exciting things to more exciting things and more complicated things to work on, which would be very good for employees morale also, and
mhm.
also for the company to do next level exciting things as well.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Again, thanks for that insight. So, what emerging trends in data science are you most excited about, and where do you see this field heading in the next, 5 to 10 years?
Oh man, I started working as a data scientist for like the last 7 years now. It's ever changing. I think when I started off, the actual challenge was all the courses that you studied and the jobs out there. There's a huge gap between that. When we were studying data science, so I had to build the practical experience out of the coursework to bridge that gap. I don't think now that gap exists, that all the courseworks are very well equipped for all the jobs out there at the moment. But I think the key things for data scientists at the moment is to, there's so many emerging things out there. Like you don't know which will work at the moment.
Hmm.
Everything feels like so good, like so
Hmm.
next level things now, right? So one of the biggest advice I also got in this space is a data scientist should focus on developing their skills in a T model. By T, I'd say the width of the T's, all the different arenas of data science you have out there. It can be data engineering, statistics, actual ML models, ML ops, DevOps, and strategy, business making, your communications. All this can be, all the new LLMs or Gen AI stuff that's coming up out there. This could be your width of all the topics. And if you want to be a successful data scientist, pick your breadth as well. Like, pick like 3 or 4 things which you want to be really good at, and hone those skills more and increase your depth. Like for me, over years, I've developed a lot more experience in business decision making and strategy, and of course engineering and statistics. These are my breadth topics where I got good at with my experience, and I'm trying to add more things to the width part of it. So I think that will make you a standout data scientist in your career.
Interesting. Interesting. So that was actually my next question. So, what's the, advice that you would give to aspiring data scientists looking to kind of build impactful careers in leading organizations like Apple or Visa?
So yeah, as I mentioned, it is the T concept. You need to figure out your depth aspects as well. And the
Hmm.
next part is actually realizing the outcomes of your work. Like ask so what, ask why questions to yourself a lot, even while. So I think one thing that's on job learning is communication. I feel like it's very underrated when you're studying. Not a lot of emphasis is on that, but communication is highly regarded in big companies, and I think even in the small companies. Like how easily you communicate things, the most complicated things in a very easy way is
Hmm.
the primary key. And that will be solved by asking a lot of whys and asking a lot of so what questions. Like now if I'm building a deck, after every slide I try to ask myself a question, so what? Like you have the information there, so what? Like what are you driving from it? So that leads to my the next part of story. So I think that on top of your T skills development, you need this one as a big thing, the communication part.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much, Havish, for those insights. And thank you for sharing your incredible journey. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast. We look forward to staying connected and following your work at Apple. And for our listeners, don't forget to check out the link in the description to learn more about Havish's projects and the work we're doing at Datawise. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers.
Thank you, Arya. Thank you.
Thanks, Havish. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.